Lord. Amen.
You may be seated. This Honorable House resumes its sitting. I wish to welcome all to the sitting of the Honorable House of Representatives for today, Tuesday, April 14, 2026. Having not met since the conclusion of the budget debate, I'm particularly pleased to welcome you all, and I trust that you have returned refreshed and rejuvenated to continue today our work on behalf of the people of Jamaica. Today we have some special guests in.
I ain't got no limit, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm limitless. I ain't got no limit, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm limitless.
And they're here with us today. Welcome. Also present is Mr. Stanley Redwood, former president of the Senate. Welcome to the houses. Let me also say welcome to those who are joining us via the various social media and traditional media platforms, particularly PBCJ live stream. To all guests seated here in the gallery, I hope you will find today's sitting an enjoyable one. Thank you. Call of the roll.
Mr. Clark, Mr. Green, Dr. Holness, Dr. Chang, Mrs. Williams, Mr. Bartlett, Ms. Grange, Dr. Tufton, Mr. Mackenzie, Mr. Montague, Mr. Vaz, Mr. Chuck, Mr. Charles Jr., Mr. Morgan, Ambassador Marks, Mr. Samuda, Dr. Wheatley, Mrs. Cuthbert Flynn, Mr. Terlong, Mr. Witter, Mrs. Dalrymple Filbert, Miss Morrison, Miss Lee, Mr. Donovan Williams, Mr. Main, Miss Crawford, Mr. Delroy Williams, Miss Hamilton, Mr. Steve Wright, Mr. Azan, Mr. Brown, Dr. Brown Burke, Mr. Buchanan, Mr. Bunting, Miss Burchell, Dr. Campbell, Mr. Cousins, Mr. Crawford, Miss Daly, Dr. Dawes, Mr. Golding, Mr. Gordon, Mr. Hales, Mr. Hines, Mr. Hilton, Mr. Jackson, Miss Jess, Mrs. Malahoo Fort, Mrs. Miller Bennett, Mr. Morris, Mrs. Nita Garvey, Mr. Newell, Mr. Paulwell, Mr. Phillips, Miss Perkins, Mr. Robertson, Mr. Robinson, Dr. Russell, Miss Shaw, Mr. Smith, Mr. Dwayne Voss, Mr. Warmington, and Mr. Chuck. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, we can proceed to the agenda. There is a statement that will be given and then we will proceed. Can proceed to the agenda.
Statement by ministers. Let's make welcome to his feet our own House Leader, Honorable Floyd Green, Member of Parliament for Ministry of Agriculture, Fisheries and Mining.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Copies of the statement are with the order, so they can be circulated. Madam Speaker, I rise in this honorable house today with a deep sense of purpose and fulfillment. I do so to inform this house and by extension the people of Jamaica that the government has delivered on yet another of its commitments to modernize the management of our fisheries sector and to safeguard one of Jamaica's most prized marine resources, the Caribbean spiny lobster. Madam Speaker, you will recall that during my sectoral presentation to this honorable house on the 27th of May, 2025, which was delivered under the theme, A New Era of Transformation and Resilience, I gave a clear undertaking that we would be introducing regulations to allow for the establishment of a framework to govern the lawful possession, sale, processing, and export of spiny lobster during the closed season. I'm pleased to advise this honorable house that the Fisheries Spiny Lobster Regulations 2026 were promulgated on the 20th of March 2026 and are now in full force and effect. Madam Speaker, the government is delivering on its commitments. Madam Speaker, why does this matter? For too long, our fishers and fishing contradiction. They harvest spiny lobster lawfully during the open season, investing their time, their fuel, their labor to bring in a legitimate catch. Yet the moment the closed season begins, that very product becomes commercially stranded. Fishers who did everything right find themselves unable to sell, store, process, or export what they have lawfully caught. The system did not distinguish between illegal harvesting and legitimate stock that was already in circulation. It also created a gap in the market during the closed season, where businesses that depend on lobster had limited lawful avenues through which to access supply. That gap, Madam Speaker, created pressure within the system and in some cases incentivized the very illegal activity we're working to eliminate. What these regulations do is correct that deficiency in a structured and controlled way. They establish a clear legal framework that allows lobster which has been lawfully harvested during the open season to be declared, accounted for, and then handled within a regulated system during the closed period. That includes storage, processing, sale, and export under strict oversight from the National Fisheries Authority. Madam Speaker, let me be absolutely clear. These regulations do not in any way relax the prohibition on fishing during the closed season. Fishing for spiny lobster during the closed season remains absolutely prohibited. That position is unchanged. What has changed is how we're managing the system. We're protecting the resource while allowing legitimate economic activity to continue in a way that is transparent, traceable, and enforceable. This ensures balance so that our conservation objectives are met while our fishers, vendors, processors, and exporters are not penalized for operating within the law. It's also about bringing clearer order to the sector with declaration requirements, notification thresholds, and strengthened record keeping, we're now able to track lobster within the system during the close season in a way that was not previously possible. Madam Speaker, this is what modern fisheries management looks like. It's deliberate, it's data-driven, and it's designed to protect both the resource and the people who depend on it. During the close season, the regulations prohibit capture, possession, or sale of undersized lobster or lobster carrying eggs and require that such lobster be returned to the sea immediately. Protecting breeding stock and allowing juvenile lobster to mature are essential to maintaining a healthy and sustainable population. Madam Speaker, the updated regulations go further in strengthening these protections. We know, Madam Speaker, that lobster is enjoyed by many Jamaicans, but if the stock is not sustainably managed, there is a real risk that there will be no lobster to enjoy in the future. For that reason, let me again make it absolutely clear that fishing or harvesting lobster during the close season remains strictly prohibited. The allowance for consumption and trade applies only to lobster that was legally harvested during the open season and for which the required declaration has been submitted. Madam Speaker, one of the key features of the new regime is the declaration. Any person in possession of lobster that was lawfully harvested before the start of the close season is now required to submit a declaration to the National Fisheries Authority within 7 days of the beginning of the close season. So those declarations, Madam Speaker, and members would have been in by the 8th of April. The declaration must include details such as the name, telephone number, address, quantity of lobster being held, the form in which it is stored, whether whole, tails, or otherwise, and the location that it is being kept. Madam Speaker, based on the declarations received by the National Fisheries Authority, a total of 177 individuals and entities have declared lobster held prior to the commencement of the close season, accounting for a significant volume of product currently within the system, all of which has been captured and verified through the declaration process. The level of compliance signals that stakeholders are engaging with the regulatory framework and strengthens our ability to effectively monitor and account for lobster in circulation. Madam Speaker, the regulations also address the movement of lobster during the close season. Particularly where people are trading in lobster, they have to notify the National Fisheries Authority, and the notification must include the name, address of the person whom the spiny lobster was acquired from, the information of the source of the lobster, the date it was acquired, the quantity, the form, and the location where it will be stored. That approach again ensures that all significant transactions taking place during the close season are properly recorded and can be verified. Madam Speaker, once a declaration or notification has been properly made, the regulations allow for the continuing handling of lobster within the law. Under the previous regime, you could only do this for the first 21 days, after which possession became unlawful. With these new regulations now, we have a more practical and structured system, and you may continue to possess and trade once that declaration has been made. Our fisheries inspectors are empowered to carry out inspections to verify the information submitted, ensuring that compliance is supported by active monitoring. The new regulations, Madam Speaker, also introduced a structured process for export activity during the close season. Persons must apply to the NFA for authorization and provide details outlining the intended export. It ensures that the export activity is based on declared and verified stock and is conducted with a clearly defined regulatory framework. One of the big changes, Madam Speaker, is that for restaurants, hotels, storage facilities, they have to keep detailed transaction records for their lobster sale for at minimum 3 years. These requirements support a system where lobster moving through the market during the close season can be properly tracked, verified, and inspected. Also, the regulation strengthens enforcement and allows the inspectors to seize lobster found during the close season that has not been properly declared or notified. Madam Speaker, thankfully, because of some of the moves by the government, especially on the enforcement side, with our new assets that have been patrolling the seas, we are seeing a very stable lobster fisheries sector. In fact, we have been able, in our last 39-day spiny lobster survey, which was conducted across the entire Pedro Bank in 2023, we've identified a fishable lobster catch of 2,000 metric tons. Nonetheless, Madam Speaker, we ensure that each season we are not doing more than 314 metric tons. That is important, Madam Speaker, because we are not leaving our fisheries to chance. We're ensuring that it's actively assessed, scientifically managed, and kept within limits that support long-term sustainability. Additionally, we have strengthened institutional capacity. Under the form of Fisheries Division, the staff at the Fisheries Division stood at 60 persons. Since we have transformed to the National Fisheries Authority, it is now staffed with 275 individuals, of which the compliance branch alone has 42 officers, of whom 39 are gazetted fisheries inspector. We have over 171 individuals who are gazetted as fisheries inspectors, and that includes members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force and members of the Jamaica Defense Nations, will be carried out through a strengthened and coordinated framework. The National Fisheries Authority, through its island-wide compliance unit, is actively monitoring activities across key fishing communities, landing sites, markets, and storage facilities. This effort is supported by the Jamaica Constabulary Force Agricultural Protection Branch, which works closely with the NFA to detect and disrupt illegal activity. Just to give you an idea, members, the enforcement coordination, we've had 19 intelligence-led enforcement operations since the start of the year with the Jamaica Constabulary Force, which has resulted in 6 arrests and 5 seizures for the illegal possession of conch during the conch close season. So that level of coordination demonstrates the seriousness with which the close season protections are being enforced and sends a clear signal that illegal activity in our fisheries will be pursued. There is active surveillance of the illegal catching, handling, storage, distribution of lobster during the close season, and targeted operations will be conducted to ensure compliance. Any individual, company, or establishment found operating outside of the prescribed regulations will be subject to enforcement action and will be prosecuted in accordance with the law. Breaches of the regulations constitute offenses which may be liable upon conviction to a fine of up to $3 million or a term of imprisonment. 1 minute. Or a term of imprisonment. This, Madam Speaker, ensures that the rules are applied consistently and that compliance is taken seriously. Madam Speaker, these regulations represent a necessary step in strengthening the management of one of Jamaica's most valuable marine resources. They provide clarity, improve oversight, and establish a system that allows the industry to function while protecting the long-term sustainability of the lobster stock. The expectation is clear. Persons operating within the sector must comply with the declaration and notification requirements, maintain proper records, operate within the framework established under the law. Through this approach, we safeguard the resource, support livelihoods, and position the fisheries sector for continued growth and stability. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thanks, Minister. Responding to statement by Minister is the member from Westmoreland Eastern.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I don't find any faults necessarily with what the minister said, in that it generally is a good idea because these persons previously would have been placed in a position where lawful citizens would be forced to do something illegal just to survive for their sustenance. Madam Speaker, I crave your protection from the members opposite. Yes, I was saying, Madam Speaker, that generally this is good because previously what would have happened is that if persons were not able to get rid of whatever supply they had within, I think, 21 days, it would literally force them into doing something illegal in order for them to just survive. So it generally is a good thing. The one concern I have, Minister, when you mention here about 177 individuals and entities, I was just wondering, when you say individuals, if that refers to like the artisanal fishers who would have some supply, whether in White House or around in Alligator Pond or wherever it is, and would need to store that at their home, if that incorporates those persons who don't necessarily have the big commercial setup for storage and those things.
Remember from St. Andrews South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Minister, I was just listening. I had two thoughts which I wanted to run by you. We haven't seen the regulations themselves, but do they provide for rights of inspection? I assume they do. And will there be a policy of random inspection or audit so that persons who might be inclined to overstate in their declaration what the start, the beginning of the closed season, so as to never know when the inspected would be useful. The other thing I want to ask you was, how many different marine products have open and closed seasons in Jamaica? And lobster being one, conch, I believe, is another. I don't know if there are any others, but I was wondering to what extent this regime for the spiny lobster would be relevant to, say, the conch, and to the extent this is a more up-to-date regime, would it not make sense to apply it, or as much of it as is relevant, to other marine products that have open and closed seasons? And has any thought been given to that?
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, members. To the member from Westmoreland Eastern, yes, it does include the artisanal small fishers. It was a very easy process in terms of declaration. They could go to the fisheries office or they could send an email in, and a number of them took up that. And the fisheries, and this goes to the second matter, but the inspectors have to check the quantity that is declared, right? So you literally have to inspect and assess and ensure that what you have said, if you said you have 200 kilograms, that you do have 200 kilograms, so that we don't have the over-reporting. Everybody gets inspected. Everybody gets inspected. So one of the big changes that has happened with the fisheries, as I said, we now have 42 people who all they do is compliance. So that was one of the big changes with our National Fisheries Authority. Before, literally, the entire complement was 60. Right now, the complement is 275. So everybody has to be inspected. That's the first thing. So yes, it does include some of our small artisanals, right? Sometimes, as you know, member, you have people who aggregate, right? Because they have the capacity, so it includes all of that. And it also includes some restaurants who would already have in stock. Yes, the regulations give the right of inspection, and random inspections are done. right? And we do that both for lobster and for fish and for conch. As we would have said, we would have arrested 6 people in relation to conch, right? And what is helping us now, why we're a little bit more confident that we can treat with the oversight, is the agricultural protection branch of the police force, because literally every day they are treated with agriculture related crime. So they are also fisheries inspectors, some of them under the law. We only have open and closed season for lobster and conch. Conch is still on the rebound. Remember, we went through a period where we had to stop our conch fisheries, and that was because of overexploitation, including overexploitation from external sources, not necessarily all officials. Thankfully, we are seeing increased stock density, and now we have the only MSC certified wild caught conch in the world, which is the highest standard in terms of sustainability. That is happening because the players have come together, right? It is a little bit more delicate to manage the conch fisheries, so we're not there yet. We're not there yet. But in lobster, this is the first we're making this change. Clearly, we will do a review at the end to ensure that it is in keeping. By next year, we will have the capacity to do our own surveys with our own research vessel. That will be a game changer for fisheries, right? Now it costs us a lot of money to get these surveys done. Last one was in 2023. When we have our own vessel, we can do these more regularly. And once we see that the stock is at a level that can sustain it, then we will move. This is what countries like Belize have done, right? So you have a closed season because that's the time that they spawn, but you can access it straight through. So we're heading in that direction. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Minister. Statement by Minister ends. Look, you have a question? The member from Manchester South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
I thought you were actually beckoning to something else.
No. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Minister, just as the member recently having the privilege to represent Alligator Pond, where we have 300 and odd registered fishers and almost 1,000 persons in a vertically integrated, employed in a vertically integrated chain of restaurants and so on. The small fishers don't have the benefit of being able to afford storage for any significant length of time. And in a recent constituency development plan, we identified that cold storage that would be available to those fishers would allow them to expand their income substantially without increasing risk of spoilage or having to effectively dump the goods. So could you say, Minister, while I am in support of this because it now facilitates measures like this, but often the catalyst has to come from the government, because if we rely only on the aggregators, the small fishers will not benefit. So can you say if there are any plans to provide cold storage for the fishers in Alligator Pond and other similar beaches?
Hold on a moment. Are there any more questions? Go ahead, Minister.
Thank you, member from South Manchester, and good question. One of the persons who have endorsed the policy, I think we should be putting out this video, is a man you know well from a place called Leko Ochi. That now it will really help his business in terms of people coming and being able to get lobster during the season. Yes, there is a plan to roll out cold storage across our fishing beaches, and we've started. We actually have a partnership with the UNDP, and what we're doing is solar generated cold storage. We've done a couple containers already, and there are containers that come with deep freezes that are operated on a cooperative basis, right? So we will ensure that Alligator Pond is on that list.
Thank you. Announcements?
Laid on the table of the House are the following: annual reports and audited financial statements of the Real Estate Board and the Commission of Strata Corporation for the financial year 2019-2020. Annual report and audited financial statements of the Jamaica Agricultural Commodities Regulatory Authority for the financial year 2018-2019. And its related ministry paper number 21 of 2026, titled Annual Report and Audited Financial Statements of the Jamaica Agricultural Commodities Regulatory Authority for the year ended March 31, 2019. White Paper number 01 of 2026, titled National Destination Assurance Framework and Strategy. Auditor General's Department Certified Appropriation Accounts under Head 2829 Supreme Court for 2012-2013. Head 28052 Legal Reform Department for the year 2019-2020. Head 20,000 for the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service 2020-2021. Head 20,000 C Ministry of Finance and the Public Service for the year 2020-2021. Head 27,000 Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs for the year 2021-2022. Head 27,000 Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs for the year 2022-2023. Finally, by way of information, report of the Regulations Committee of the Senate on its deliberations on 1. The National Housing Trust Housing Benefit Special Selection Catherine Estates Housing Development Batch 1 Order, 2. The Industrial Cove Manor Housing Development Order, and 3. The Masmere Flats Housing Development Order of 2025. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Bills brought from the Senate, petitions, papers, reports from committees, notices of motions given orally. Not yet, PM. Not yet. Questions and answers to questions. Motions that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice. Motions relating to the sitting of the House. Motion for leave to introduce bills. Presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained. House Leader.
Madam Speaker, this Honorable House would have taken note that on the 19th of March 2026, the Prime Minister gave notice of that at the next meeting of the House, he would move to introduce and have read a first time a bill shortly entitled the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority Act 2026. Madam Speaker, a new bill will be tabled, and as such, I now seek leave of the House to withdraw the bill.
Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. House
Madam,
Leader.
Madam Speaker, I now ask for recommittal of the items, notices of motions given orally, and presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Those against? The ayes have it. The question is that notices of motions given orally and presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained be recommitted. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. Notices of motions given orally. Prime Minister.
I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, I will move to introduce and have read a first time a bill shortly entitled the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority Act 2026. I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take first reading of the bill.
Presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained. Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I now move for the suspension of standing orders to enable me to take the first reading of a bill shortly entitled the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority Act 2026.
Members, the question is that the standing orders be suspended to allow Minister to take the first reading of the bill. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I now move that a bill shortly entitled the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority Act 2026 be read a first time.
Clerk.
A bill shortly entitled the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority Act 2026 read a first time.
Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice of second reading of the bill. Madam Speaker, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I will move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take a second reading of the bill and to take it through all its concluding stages.
Thanks, Prime Minister. Not yet, not yet, not yet, not yet, not yet. Hold on. Hold on. Public business.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. I just, given the notice of second reading, I was just going to ask, the bill that was tabled during the budget debate by the Prime Minister has been withdrawn today, and a new bill has been tabled. And I've had a quick look at it, and there are changes. I don't know the extent of the changes.
Opposition leader,
perhaps we could have an explanation of what is intended.
Yes, you will get to that, opposition leader. Public business, House leader.
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker. As we embark on public business, let me firstly just join in welcoming the students from the Bethlehem Moravian College, a wonderful teaching institution. Madam Speaker, it is very special to me because my mother attended Bethlehem. So I'm very, very happy to see the students here, and they are led by Mr. Redwood, and I love when he stays in the classroom. Good to see you, Sir Redwood. No. The other thing, Madam Speaker, before I go through how we will proceed today, I'm in this house to celebrate Dr. Mavis Gilmore, who turned 100 She celebrated her 100th birthday yesterday, April 13, 2026. And this is really an honor, and to honor a life of exceptional service, dedication, and achievement. We will all remember that Dr. Gilmore was the Minister of Education from 1980 to 1986, having first served as a senator between 1972 to 1976, and then member of parliament for St. Andrew West Rural between 1976 and 1989. She also served as Minister of Social Security from 1986 to 1989, which reflects her deep concern for the well-being and advancement of the Jamaican people. The members would be happy to know that she is in wonderful health and would have been visited by the Minister of Education and is doing well. And I thought it is only fitting that we send her our celebrations and congratulations on this milestone. Madam Speaker, in public business today. Oh, yes, sorry.
Thank you, Madam.
Andrew West Rural.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I stand I stand proudly, also as the Member of Parliament of the same constituency where Dr. Mavis Gilmore represented for many years. To also express happy birthday to her. My constituents, I sent the picture that I saw our Prime Minister post yesterday, and also Dr. Dana Morrison. And my constituents were very elated to see that she was still in good health. And I do recall once I took up the post at in West Rural St. Andrew, how everyone they were very elated that another female was sent to West Road because she represented the constituency so proudly. So on behalf of the people of West Road St. Andrew, I also want to say happy birthday.
Opposition Leader?
Yes. Madam Speaker, I want to join in the sentiments of the House expressing birthday wishes to Mavis Gilmore on her 100th birthday yesterday. It's a big deal. She's somebody I know very well from I was a child. Her husband, the late John Gilmore, was a surgeon and was a close friend of my father. So my parents were friends, and I knew her from I was quite little. I actually went to visit her last year. I would think it was either July or early August at her home, because one of her relatives had reached out to me, who's writing a book which features her life. And through that conversation, she suggested I come and see Dr. Gilmore, Mavis. And I had the pleasure of visiting her at her home. She's very with it. And we had a great conversation. And she was a strong supporter of Norman Manley through the years. And then in the 70s, she had a little hiccup and moved over to the other side. But with the wisdom of age, she expressed a desire to come on the campaign trail with me in the last election. And I was tempted to take her up on that offer, but I thought it best at this stage in her life that she not agitate herself too much, because the politics has changed somewhat since when she was last active. But she is a delightful woman and an iconic Jamaican, like Madame Rose Leon, similar in the sense that represented both sides of the aisle. And it's wonderful to have her reach this August landmark milestone in her own life and career. And we wish her many more years of good health and strength. And, look forward to being able to perhaps celebrate another birthday with her in the future. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Members, next is the member from East Central St. James.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A very special position today to pay tribute to the Honorable Mavis Gilmore as being the only surviving member of the cabinet in which she served in 1980. And, pardon? No, but in the House. I stand in the House. Madam Speaker, I thought I was very clear on that as the only surviving member of that cabinet in the House at this time, I really want to recall the excellent work that the Honorable Mavis Gilmore did. Firstly, as a senator, and indeed, when she made the transition in 1976, it was a very significant move, and in fact started the change to achieve the deliverance that came in 1980. And I believe that her contribution in that famous 13 members of the opposition from 76 to 1980 was, to date, seminal, but more so has not been paralleled in any opposition that we have had since. That 13 was a powerful 13. And Mavis Gilmore was a strong leader in that group. But Mavis Gilmore was more than an ordinary politician. She was an organizer par excellence. And she served as Deputy General Secretary during that critical period from 1976 to 1980. When, you know, Madam Speaker, a little bit of that truth has to be told, and no doubt will be codified in due course. But when that period was such a painful period, it was a period when we would turn up at Belmont Road, not knowing where the meeting would be because of the circumstances of the time, coming out of a state of emergency. And we would get a little piece of paper with the address of the meeting written on it, and then we would drive carefully to find the meeting place. It was a period of great courage, and it called on the inner strength of that woman who was such a key leader. Era Councils, in fact, the brainchild of Mavis Gilmore. And I wanted to make it clear today that we honor her in a very special way in this house. And that the feeling and the emotion is strong on both sides. And she's blessed with years. A century in cricket terms is what every batsman would like to achieve. And so Mavis Gilmore has batted well, and we want to commend her from the stand for achieving a century. So congratulations to her. And we know, looking at her image as our Prime Minister hugged and wished her well yesterday, I saw the strength of a woman coming out, and it was a wonderful spectacle. And the now Minister of Education was also there with her, and it was a wonderful reunion, as it is. A Minister of Education then and the Minister of Education now, two strong women. And so I close by saying, may God give her more strength and more years. And may she find rest and peace in all the years that she has left on this planet Earth. And finally, to be rested in the bosom of Abraham when that moment comes. Today, Mavis Gilmore, God bless you. God bless you.
House Leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you to the members. In all the conversation, we may forget that Dr. Gilmore was also the first woman surgeon in the Caribbean. So she really has a lifetime of breaking barriers, and we celebrate her. Today, Madam Speaker, we intend to open the debate on the NARA bill. The bill has been tabled, and the Prime Minister will open the debate. We are not intending to close the debate today. We will close the debate next week, but we will open the debate today. And those members who want to contribute today, they can contribute after the Prime Minister gives his opening presentation. So, Madam Speaker,
Opposition Leader.
Yes, Madam Speaker. The bill having been tabled today, the standing orders would normally require it a week to pass before the debate on the bill commences. So we are commencing the debate on the day of tabling, which is not what the standing orders normally require. And so one would have to authorize that, notwithstanding the fact it was only tabled today. Secondly, Madam Speaker, there has been significant comment, analysis of the bill since it was tabled by the Prime Minister in its previous form. And the importance of it would suggest, and I, having read the previous version, am of the view that the bill ought to go to a joint select committee so it can be properly reviewed and we can hear from a range of stakeholders so as to ensure that it is fit for purpose and that it adequately addresses all the issues that need to be addressed for an entity, a statutory entity, such as the one which the bill is establishing, can function in accordance with modern principles of good governance and achieve the other objectives which the government has in mind for this body. I don't think that a joint select committee process would necessarily have to be lengthy. It could be done in an efficient way, but I think it's very important that this not be rushed through the parliament. As the fact that we're going to start the debate on it today, the day that it is being tabled, indicates is the intent of the government.
Madam Speaker, it sounds like the leader of the opposition is trying to start the debate without the debate having started. A number of the points that he can raise when he speaks on the bill. The minister, the member is quite aware that it is regular for bills to be tabled, for the standing orders to be suspended, and for the debate to commence. This has happened countless times when he was Minister of Justice. This is not new news. And the fact that the bill has been tabled, the bill was ventilated, and now we see a new bill. What the member should do, let us hear the Prime Minister's opening, and he will have due time and course to respond. So we did that already. When they moved the motion for the suspension of the standing orders, and he's about, well, you will hear. Anyway, thank you, Madam Speaker. We'll go to public business.
Member, you're saying we need to do it over. You didn't hear. You can ask for the record of Hansard. Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I now move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take second reading of a bill shortly entitled Madam Speaker. All right, let me go through the procedure and then I will respond. Madam Speaker, I now move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take a second reading of a bill shortly entitled the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority Act 2026 and to take it through all its concluding stages.
Those in favor? Those opposed? Ayes have it. Prime Minister.
A substantive presentation. Allow me to join in the expression of happiness and gratitude and celebration of the 100th birthday of someone who served this nation with great pride and indeed great competence as a Minister of Education and a Senator in this Parliament, serving both sides of the Parliament. Dr. Mavis Gilmore and I have two things in common. One, we were both ministers of education. And secondly, she's actually Mavis Holness. So yes, so we do have some distant relations. So I want to wish her from Parliament a happy birthday and many, 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 many more happy returns. Madam Speaker, the standing orders of the House helps us to arrange the business of the House such that everything is done orderly and transparently. And I urge members to pay close attention to the standing orders and to adhere to the standing orders. That protects both sides and ensures that the business of the House gets done in a transparent and effective way. In tabling this bill, we recognize that there are general concerns and some specific concerns with stakeholders. Internally, in the government, there are concerns. It is not something that we're cavalier in bringing to the Parliament, which is why at the earliest opportunity, we tabled the bill in long form, refined it, taken into consideration where possible, concerns that have been raised, and tabling it again. But it must be always borne in mind that we're tabling the bill against the backdrop of an emergency. So the emergency does not permit us to break the rules. I want to establish that. I've been very clear with that. We, as a democracy and a mature democracy, we have established the process by which we address emergency situations, which means we have established emergency rules. We have a National Disaster Risk Management Act, which provides emergency rules. We have provisions in the Constitution for a state of public emergency, for emergency situations. And in establishing this bill, we will also create the laws that will ensure that the entity is able to act with expedition whilst respecting both the laws of the land and the constitution of the country. And more importantly, the perspectives held by the wide body of stakeholders who want to see transparency, but at the same time, want to see efficiency and effectiveness. A delicate balancing act, but one that I'm certain that this Parliament and this administration is capable of delivering. So, Madam Speaker, I rise to address this Honourable House on the tabling and commencement of debate on the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority Bill 2026. And this bill is one of the most consequential pieces of legislation that this Parliament has been asked to consider in the modern era of Jamaica's development. Jamaica has long been described as a country of great position. We have a globally recognized brand in music, sports, culture, and tourism that are the envy of countries much larger than us. We have a diaspora of extraordinary talent and capital spread across the world's most prosperous economies. We have natural resources, agricultural potential, and strategic location at the crossroads of the hemispheric trade routes. Development plans, consultancy reports, and policy discussions have outlined Jamaica's transformation for decades. The vision of what Jamaica can be has existed in our national consciousness for generations. What has been missing is not the dream. What has been missing is the institutional machinery to turn that dream into delivered reality. To take the plans from the shelves and drive them through to completion at pace. Hurricane Melissa, as terrible as it has been, a moment of national urgency, a critical mass of international financing, and a mandate for transformation that transcends the ordinary pace of government. This bill is how we seize that moment. We're not restoring a pre-Melissa Jamaica. are building a post-Melissa Jamaica that the generations before us dreamed of and the generations after us will inherit. This bill has been crafted to deliver the institutional architecture through which Jamaica will convert catastrophe into competitive advantage and become a stronger, more productive, and more prosperous nation. Madam Speaker, the world has already signaled its confidence in Jamaica's capacity to lead this resurgence. The International Monetary Fund, the World Bank Group, the Inter-American Development Bank, the Development Bank of the Latin America and the Caribbean, CAF, and the Caribbean Development Bank have jointly committed a coordinated financing package of up to $6.7 billion US, the single largest and most comprehensive development financing package ever assembled for Jamaica. Madam Speaker, these institutions have commended the government's decision to establish NARA, noting that a few countries act so quickly to set up a modern, best practice central coordinating body to drive recovery with discipline, transparency, and long-term vision. Madam Speaker, the US $6.7 billion financing package is historic. However, the US damage and loss from Hurricane Melissa is US $12.2 billion. That means there is a gap that public financing alone cannot close, and that multilateral borrowing alone should not be asked to carry. Because every dollar that borrowing is used for, it's an addition to the national debt that future generations of Jamaicans must service. Madam Speaker, private capital, both domestic and international, must be mobilized, crowded in, and put to work alongside public investment. Madam Speaker, this is precisely why NARA incorporates not just approved reconstruction and resilience projects, which are government-led projects, but also designated strategic projects under FAST, which are private sector-led projects. This is to ensure that both public and private investment are properly coordinated and coordinated with synergy. Madam Speaker, some have asked why the existing machinery of government is not sufficient to manage reconstruction. That is a fair question. However, the existing administrative framework was never designed to coordinate simultaneously and at emergency pace a reconstruction program of the scale and complexity that is needed for post-Hurricane Melissa reconstruction. It does not allow us to easily overcome fragmentation, duplication, and interagency coordination failures that have too often showed and slowed up project delivery. It was not designed to interface on a unified platform with US $6.7 billion in multilateral financing, the private sector capital, and government appropriations in real time. The centralization of reconstruction efforts following major hurricanes has many precedents globally. After Hurricane Katrina devastated New Orleans in 2005, the United States established special purpose housing authorities with expedited powers. After the Christchurch earthquake of 2011, New Zealand established the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Authority. After the Great East Japan earthquake of 2011, Japan established a dedicated reconstruction agency with elevated legal powers and a fixed mandate. In the Caribbean, Dominica established the Climate Resilience Execution Agency following the devastation of Hurricane Maria. In Jamaica as well, former Prime Minister Patterson established the Office of National Reconstruction after Hurricane Ivan. In each case, the defining principle was the same. Existing administrative machinery, however competent in normal times, is not equipped for post-catastrophe reconstruction at scale. A focused, centralized, and empowered mechanism is required. Madam Speaker, I now wish to address directly the governance debate that has developed around this bill. Elements of governance models embedded in this bill, for example, the absence of a governing board, are akin to that of an executive agency. The executive agency model is not an invention of this administration. The executive agency model was conceived in the mid-1990s as an important feature of Jamaica's public sector reform agenda, specifically to cure a defect that had plagued our institutional landscape for decades. Madam Speaker, several of the agencies that Jamaicans interact with every day are structured as executive agencies. The Jamaica Customs Agency is an executive agency, it has no board. The Passport, Immigration and Citizenship Agency, the Registrar General's Department, prior to being subsumed into the National Identification and Registration Authority, NERA, the National Works Agency, all operate as executive agencies reporting directly to the minister responsible for the portfolio. This is a creation of the mid-1990s, a creation of the Patterson administration. In May 2001, Dr. the Honorable Carlton Davis, then Cabinet Secretary, addressed a UA Mind conference on executive agencies and set out with characteristic candor why Jamaica's traditional institutional arrangements had failed to deliver the quality of public services the country deserved. I commend this address to every member of this House because what he said then provides important insights relevant to the structure of NARA. Dr. Davis observed that Jamaica's public service had its origins in a command and control departmental model that worked reasonably well in the early days of independence when the private sector was relatively underdeveloped and the demands of government were less complex.
I just want to bring to the House's attention that something that the Prime Minister has said is not actually accurate. The Executive Agencies Act provides for the establishment of advisory boards for executive agencies. And I'm aware that certainly Companies Office has an advisory board. I believe Customs does as well. And if you look at Section 4 of the Executive Agencies Act, it specifically says that there should be an advisory board. When Section 5, there shall be establishment and functions of an advisory board. Every scheme of management has to have that. So it's not true to say that there is no oversight, board oversight. They do have board oversight, and the boards play an important role in helping the executive agencies to function effectively.
Prime Minister.
Madam Speaker, I have two options in front of me. One option is to respond to the leader of the opposition and not detract from my presentation. But the other option is to respond to the leader of the opposition. Because, as is being said sort of voce, I think the country needs to understand this presentation is not speaking about an advisory board. This presentation is speaking about a board of governance. which I believe all members understood that this is what we're speaking about and that there is a significant difference between an advisory board and a board of governors. The essence of the critique of the direction of the legislation is about governance. Yes, the law provides for the appointment by the CEO of an advisory board, recommends the members of the advisory board not to hold him to account for governance issues, but as a mechanism for him or her to consult with on matters specific, especially to the technical elements of the agency. I think the country needs to appreciate that there is not just a significant difference, but Madam Speaker, the advisory boards are not required to treat with matters of governance, accountability, and all the other issues of administration. When we are speaking about a governance board, we're primarily now speaking about how these entities will be held to account, how policy will be implemented, matters to deal with performance. Now, I want to be clear, Madam Speaker. NARA will be established in the form of an executive agency. It is not new, and I believe, Madam Speaker, that we should, as I said earlier, I commend the address of Dr. Davies, former cabinet secretary. And he observed that Jamaica's public service had its origins in a command and control departmental model that worked reasonably well in the early years of independence, when the private sector was relatively underdeveloped and the demands of the government were less complex. But as the government grew and the private sector became more competitive, the model proved increasingly inadequate. The response over time was to create statutory corporations and the government companies that were meant to be more flexible, more competitive in attracting talent, and more efficient in delivering services. But as Dr. Davis noted in his address, these bodies, with some notable exceptions, did not live up to expectations. They operated as monopoly providers of services with no market pressure to perform. The Accountant General, as nominal shareholder, was a poor substitute for the private sector shareholder who demand returns. Dr. Davis made a fundamental point about accountability, and I quote, "Accountability of these bodies tend to be diffused between minister, chairman, board, and chief executive." Madam Speaker, when you have diffused accountability, when no single person is clearly and unambiguously responsible for results, the instinct of every institution is to protect process rather than to deliver outcomes. The executive agency model was developed precisely to cure that effect. Under the executive agency model, there is a clear accountability in the chief executive officer reporting directly to the responsible minister, supported by an advisory board rather than a governing board. it is a bit distressing that the leader of the opposition, who pretends to leadership, does not understand. Well, his comments would suggest that he does not understand the difference between a governing board and an advisory board.
On a point of order, the Prime Minister, said that executive agencies don't have boards. That was incorrect. They do have advisory boards. He also said something about the CEO appointing the board, which is also incorrect. Typically, the minister under whose portfolio the executive agency falls appoints the board. And this, NARA, is not an executive agency. It is a statutory body. Clause 3 makes it absolutely clear. It's a statutory body to which the relevant section of the Interpretation Act applies. Section 28, which means it can hold property, can sue in its own name and be sued, etc. This is not an executive agency. That whole discussion about an executive agency is a complete red herring.
Madam Speaker, I believe we should focus. We should focus on this, because the more the leader of the opposition gets into this business, the more he reveals himself as not having an understanding of the issues. Madam Speaker, let me be precise about NARA and what we will have in place of a governing board. Because some commentary has proceeded as if there is no oversight at all. The oversight is robust, and it is modeled on the most successful accountability mechanism in Jamaica's modern history. As I announced in my budget presentation, the Jamaica Reconstruction and Resilience Oversight Committee, JAMROC, will be established to provide independent public oversight of NARA's performance. Madam Speaker, I am not here saying that the executive agency model has worked perfectly. Decades of experience have revealed certain challenges. In particular, while executive agency CEOs are engaged on performance-based contracts with accountability for results, the practical reality has not always matched that design. Often, the targets have lacked the rigor needed to drive real accountability, and the consequences for underperformance have been insufficient. We are conscious of those shortcomings. We will address these in how the NARA CEO is held to account. Performance evaluation of the CEO will be conducted by the Cabinet Office, will be with structured input from JAMROC as well as other stakeholders. Performance evaluation will be grounded in the achievement of clearly defined targets and measurable outcomes, not merely process compliance, not activity reports, but delivered results. The people of Jamaica will be able to judge through JAMROC public reporting whether NARA is performing. And it is not the accountability, and if it is not, the accountability chain will be clear, direct, and consequential. JAMROC will operate similarly to the Economic Program Oversight Committee, EPOC, which was established to monitor the implementation of Jamaica's economic reform program. Madam Speaker, similar to the economic reform program, reconstruction is not a government project. It is a national project. Its oversight must reflect that. That is why I am announcing today that the government will make provision for JAMROC to include a member nominated by the leader of the opposition. Madam Speaker, I think that passed the leader of the opposition. He wasn't. He wasn't paying attention. Let me repeat that. Madam Speaker, similar to the economic reform program, reconstruction is not a government project. It is a national project. Its oversight must reflect that. And that is why I am announcing today that the government will make provisions for Jamrock to include a member nominated by the leader of the opposition. Madam Speaker, EPOC was created at a moment of national crisis no less acute than what we face today, though different in character. In 2013, Jamaica's public debt had reached approximately 147% of GDP. We were one of the most indebted countries in the world. We had limited access to international capital markets. EPOC did not derive its authority from an elaborate statutory superstructure. It was built on policy commitment, public credibility, broad national consensus, and the personal integrity of its members. It brought together representatives of the private sector, trade unions, academia, civil society, and the financial sector united in a single mission to hold government accountable publicly and transparently to the terms of Jamaica's economic reform program. The results speak for themselves. Jamaica halved our national debt burden in a decade, and we did so across successive political administrations, which is itself an extraordinary demonstration of national consensus. The EPOC model has been hailed globally as a case study. Madam Speaker, it is unquestionable that the EPOC model was highly successful. Jamrock is designed on exactly that model. Madam Speaker, the government has noted the concerns raised by the Incorporated Master Builders Association of Jamaica on procurement clarity, transparency, accountability, and local industry participation. These are legitimate concerns, and they will be taken seriously. On the specific question of procurement, the procurement framework for NARA is not incorporated in the bill itself. It is the government's intention that the Minister of Finance will issue an order under Section 3.3 of the Public Procurement Act 2015, exempting NARA from the standard procurement regime and specifying the particular terms and conditions that will apply to NARA's procurement activities. This will allow NARA to operate with speed and flexibility that reconstruction demands, while ensuring that the procurement framework under which it operates is expressly defined, legally grounded, and subject to the oversight of the Minister of Finance. On the issue of local participation, let me be clear, local contractors, local workers, local businesses are not peripheral to this reconstruction effort. They are central to the reconstruction effort. NARA is not simply a mechanism to spend money on rebuilding. It is a mechanism to use rebuilding as a means of strengthening Jamaica's capacity, deepening domestic capability, and laying a firmer foundation for long-term growth. Under NARA, reconstruction will strengthen Jamaican capacity, not sideline it or bypass it. Madam Speaker, this bill establishes two distinct categories of projects that together constitute Jamaica's path from resilience to resurgence. They operate on different principles and must be understood separately. Pillar 1, approved reconstruction and resilience projects. These are government-led projects that NARA will coordinate, implement, and oversee directly, delivered by government directly or through public-private partnerships. This is the core reconstruction and resilience building mandate that most persons associate with NARA. These projects include the rebuilding of damaged infrastructure, roads, bridges, drainage systems, schools, health facilities, the relocation of climate resilient reconstruction of communities in high-risk zones, the transformation of towns like Black River and Falmouth into planned consolidated climate-ready urban cores, the construction of a new Kingston Public Hospital, the development of the planned government campus at the National Hero Circle, and the delivery of major logistics and transportation infrastructure, including Burnham Field. For these projects, NARA will exercise its full suite of powers: accelerated planning and approval, streamlined procurement, consolidated project management, and coordinated access to the US $6.7 billion of multilateral financing. NARA will act as a single point of national coordination for all approved reconstruction and resilience projects, eliminating the fragmentation, duplication, and interagency delay that have too often been the enemy of timely delivery. It will establish and maintain a public register of approved projects with performance indicators, reporting standards, and compliance and monitoring systems. Accountability will not be sacrificed for speed. On the contrary, NARA will operate with a level of project management discipline, transparency, and public reporting that has not previously been applied to government infrastructure delivery at this scale. Now, Pillar 2 designated strategic investment projects under the FAST Jamaica umbrella. FAST Jamaica, that is the Facilitated Acceleration of Strategic Transformation, will create a dedicated pathway to fast-track private sector-led strategic investment projects. NARA will not be responsible for their delivery. What NARA will provide is the power of expedition, coordinating across agencies, accelerating regulatory approvals, and compressing the enabling environment that a strategic investor needs to commit capital and commence execution. Madam Speaker, I wish to make an important announcement to the House today. Having reflected carefully on the investment landscape and the scale of capital, of private capital we will need to crowd in, we have decided to lower the FAST Jamaica investment threshold from US 150 million, which we had announced in Parliament in my budget presentation, to US $15 million. This is a deliberate decision to widen the door of resurgence. At US 15 million, a broader universe of strategic investors, local, regional, diaspora, and international investors can qualify for the FAST pathway. Imagine 100 projects at that threshold. That's $1.5 billion of private investment mobilized at speed, creating jobs, building capacity, and driving economic expansion across every region of the island. I'm sure, Madam Speaker, that as I'm speaking, investors are thinking. There are many projects sitting in various approval bodies, various municipalities, on the desk of various ministries, just waiting for a signature to approve, waiting for a yes or a no. Once you meet that 15 million US threshold, you can apply to be under FAST. You will get your yes or your no. You will get your approval. You will get your permit, and you will be coordinated into the FAST ecosystem administered by NARA. FAST Jamaica addresses a problem that has cost this country dearly for far too long. Too many promising transformational private sector investments that would create thousands of jobs, generate significant tax revenues, and reshape our economic geography have gone elsewhere. They have gone to countries that are simply more nimble, countries that can say yes to strategic investors in weeks or months, not years. Madam Speaker, the theme of my budget presentation, Building Forward Together from Resilience to Resurgence, is not a slogan. It is a program, and NARA is the delivery vehicle. For too long, Jamaica has been told about our potential in geography, potential in people, potential in our brand, potential in our diaspora, potential in our cultural influence that radiates far beyond what our population size would suggest. For far too long, that potential has lived in reports and strategies, in speeches and vision documents of people pontificating, but worse, of persons who would find every reason why a perfectly good project should not be done. But the real challenge, Madam Speaker, is that we have lacked the bureaucracy to deliver at pace and at scale these transformational projects. Madam Speaker, the era of unrealized potential ends with this bill. Every school NARA bills will be designed for the storms of tomorrow, not the storms of yesterday. Every road, bridge, and drainage system will be built to climate resilient standards. Every community relocated from a high-risk zone will be settled in a planned service productive location. Black River and Falmouth will not be rebuilt as they were. They will be reimagined as planned, climate-ready urban cores that become a model for the region. We are building the Jamaica we always knew we could be. Through the Fast Jamaica, we are connecting that physical reconstruction to the economic transformation that Jamaica's potential has long demanded. The logistics hub at Kingston that positions us as the premier transshipment center of the hemisphere, the agricultural resilience of our rural parishes, the tourism infrastructure of our coastal communities rebuilt to a standard that commands premium positioning in the global market, the energy transition that will reduce our vulnerability to fuel price volatility and lower costs for every Jamaican household and business, and the STEAM schools that will produce the human capital for the economy of tomorrow. These are not separate projects. These are the interconnected architecture of Jamaican resurgence, the realization at last of which this nation has always been capable of. Jamaica has proven before that it can use bold, consensus-based mechanism to achieve transformation at historic scale. EPOC held successive governments accountable through the most impressive macroeconomic turnaround achieved by any small island state globally. Jamrock will hold NARA accountable through reconstruction and resurgence in the same way that EPOC did. Madam Speaker, we have earned the confidence of the world's foremost development institutions. We have assembled the largest financing package in Jamaica's history. We have designed an institution with clear accountability, credible oversight, and a focused mandate. We have a framework to crowd in the private capital that will close the gap between what the storm took and what Jamaica can build. We have a bill. What we need, Madam Speaker, is a national will. The collective determination of every member of this House, every Jamaican in every parish, and every member of our diaspora around the world to build this country together forward. Yes. Madam Speaker, I commend the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority Bill 2026 to this Honorable House. I ask that members engage it with the seriousness it deserves. I ask that we resist the temptation to allow the theoretical or the theatrical, both. We must resist the temptation for the theoretical and the theatrical to overwhelm, which we are wont to do, the practical. To become absorbed, as the leader of the opposition tried to do, to pull me into institutional debates about design, that we forget the people of St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, Hanover, St. Anne, St. James, and the other parishes who are waiting for their communities to be rebuilt. For once, let us, I agree with you, member, let us join hands, but let us put the people first, truly. When we debate sometimes here, we want to put process before people. It is something that I have heard the lament on this side, but I've heard a similar lament by members on that side, that our mature democracy has produced a system where we look for process over outcome. And as you have said, sometimes we believe that perfecting the process is the outcome that we desire, regardless of whether or not the people have benefited. And I think we now have this opportunity. Yes, we must get the accountability right, the transparency right. Competitiveness is a part of our culture, and we have to find a way to have that in the NARA. We must ensure that we are developing local talent and including local capabilities. All of those things, we don't debate them. But it doesn't mean that we are going to be bogged down and move slowly because of that. The new challenge for this generation of legislators is to figure out how to create structures that are nimble, structures that are lean, structures that can respond to the disruptive world in which we exist. Structures that reward performance. I hate to use this word because it's going to be misinterpreted, but we have to have structures that reward the risk taker. Because that is how you're going to get innovation and movement at speed and pace. It is the challenge that we face. And I'm certain that the capacity elected in this room and appointed in the Senate is capable of coming up with an institutional structure that balances all of these requirements, but at the same time making sure that we move faster than we were moving before. I've always said it is a national tragedy that we have the fastest man and the fastest woman in the world, and yet we have the slowest moving bureaucratic process. Somehow it has invaded our psyche and our culture that if it didn't take long, it wasn't well done. While the rest of the world is moving way past us. While we are celebrating how well we have perfected process, and we have no celebration for how we have lifted people out of poverty, how we have gotten our roads repaired, how we have brought in new industries. That must be the focus. So, Madam Speaker, Jamaica does not need a recovery model in which process supersedes tangible outcomes, in which files move elegantly while reconstruction stalls. The people of Jamaica are not waiting for a perfect institution. They are waiting for a functioning one. They are waiting for school children to have proper learning facilities, hospitals where families can be treated, roads that we can drive on without being shaken up and stirred, and homes in which we can live safely. NARA is how we will deliver those things faster, more transparently, and with great accountability than Jamaica has ever managed before. Madam Speaker, this House does not have to speculate about what happens when political conflict and institutional paralysis delays post-disaster reconstruction. We have a case study. In March 2026, Minister Morgan led a delegation to Lima, Peru, specifically to learn from Peru's experience after the El Nino Costero flood of early 2017. Peru passed its reconstruction law in September 2017 and established the Authority for Reconstruction with Changes to lead delivery. But the program was almost immediately consumed by political crisis. The reconstruction framework was amended under political pressure, and projects were fragmented back across ministries and regional authorities. By April 2019, 18 months after reconstruction was supposed to have begun in earnest, only 27% of the approved reconstruction budget had been spent. The Comptroller General subsequently identified nearly 13,000 instances of mismanagement and 105 projects paralyzed across 11 regions.
Madam Speaker, with the time for the Prime Minister's presentation having expired, we ask that it be extended sufficiently for him to conclude his presentation.
No, that is fine. Host, the question is that we allow the Prime Minister to complete his debate on, well, to complete the opening of the debate on this very important NARA bill. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, members, for the extension of the time. So, the Comptroller General of Peru subsequently identified nearly 13,000 instances of mismanagement and 105 projects paralyzed across 11 regions. Peru eventually stopped relitigating its governance model and started building differently. In 2020, it reconstituted the ARC, that is the entity that they had created, as a focused executor, implemented a government-to-government delivery partnership with the United Kingdom. So they eventually abandoned what was set up as the equivalent of what we're setting up as NARA, and went to a government-to-government delivery partnership with the United Kingdom and reformed procurement completely. The results were immediate. Procurement timelines fell from 12 months to 3 to 4 months, and the number of competitive bidders per project rose from an average of 2 to 22 per project. So, Madam Speaker, the lesson from Peru is that delay costs lives, livelihoods, and national credibility. The Jamaican people cannot afford for us to repeat Peru's first phase. We can do much better, Madam Speaker. We can be focused, empowered, and we can make our system accountable from the start. Peru took 3 painful years to arrive at where they are now. We are beginning at where Peru eventually arrived, not where it started. And I draw this parallel, Madam Speaker, because what I'm seeing evolving could lead to us getting trapped in the analysis paralysis cycle, where we could end up not able to resist political advantage or political opportunity, and we end up debating this forever until the emergency of Melissa has passed in the minds of the people. It has happened before. So I urge this House to think on the objective, which is to have reconstruction happen quickly, but equitably, accountably, and transparently. I believe that the bill we have presented meets the criteria. We are open to consider improvements, and I invite all the members to bring their best minds to analyzing the bill. Madam Speaker, I want to very quickly go clause by clause, as I am required to do, to explain or give a general overview of the bill. So clause 1, short title and commencement. Clause 1 contains the short title of the act as well as its operational provisions. It provides that the act will come into force on a date appointed by the minister. It also provides that the dissolution and transition provisions will come into operation on a date appointed by the minister. Clause 2, the interpretation clause. Clause 2 provides for the definitions of terms used in the act. Key expressions such as approving entity, designated strategic investment projects, and step-in order are defined. These terms will be more fully explained as we proceed through the bill. Part 2, which deals with administration. Clause 3, establishment of the authority. Clause 3 establishes the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority, NARA, or the authority, as a body corporate. Clause 4 establishes NARA's functions under the Act. Its primary functions are the preparation, implementation, and oversight of approved reconstruction and resilience projects, plans, programs, activities, and works. In addition, NARA will, among other things, establish performance indicators and reporting standards, which are critical to the success of this entity as an accountable entity, establish tracking, monitoring, and reporting systems, procure goods, works, and services, issue directives and operational guidelines, cause projects, programs, and plans to include standards for climate and disaster resilience, establish project management and risk management systems. Clause 4 also sets out the powers of NARA. Subparagraph 2 lists powers in relation to carrying out the operational works, and subparagraph 3 clarifies that NARA enter into transactions and take actions to preserve sites of architectural and historic interests. Subparagraph 4 acknowledges that NARA will utilize the existing resources of the government in carrying out its functions as appropriate. Clause 5, appointment of Chief Executive Officer and other employees. Clause 5 provides for the appointment of the CEO of NARA. This appointment is made by the Prime Minister by instrument in writing. The CEO will be responsible for the day-to-day management of NARA and act on its behalf. NARA will be able to employ such staff as may be necessary for carrying out the provision of the Act. Clause 5 includes provisions regarding the remuneration of staff, which must be in accordance with the rates prescribed by the minister responsible for the public service. Clause 6, delegation of functions. Clause 6 allows NARA and the CEO to delegate, with the approval of the minister, the performance of their functions as they consider necessary. Clause 7, power to appoint committees. Madam Speaker, the administration of this legislation will require good administration and so technical advice to ensure disaster recovery and reconstruction is resilient and in accordance with established laws, standards, and guidelines. It may therefore be necessary to appoint an appropriately constituted committee to examine and report on matters relating to the act. This would be akin to the advisory board. Clause 7, again, the leader of the opposition missed that clause. So let me reread it. Let me read, you read it. So you realize that there is a clause for the appointment of a committee, which could be the advisory, which is, yes. So your concerns are addressed. No, it's separate. So clause 7 of the act allows the minister to appoint such committees as required for the members to be compensated for their services. Clause 8, funds of the authority. Clause 8 provides that the funds of the authority will be the funds placed at its disposal by Parliament, as well as other monies or property which may become payable to or vested in NARA. Clause 9, accounts and audits. Clause 9 mandates NARA to follow good accounting practices, which must be in accordance with generally accepted principles promulgated by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Jamaica. These financial statements must be audited annually by a registered public accountant appointed by the NARA CEO with the approval of the Cabinet Secretary. The statement of accounts audited must form part of NARA's annual report under Clause 11. Clause 10, reports, returns, etc. Clause 10 requires NARA to furnish reports, returns, accounts, and other information to the minister with respect to its activities. Clause 11, annual and other reports. Clause 11 requires NARA to prepare annual reports, which must include the audited statements of accounts under Clause 9. The annual report and audited financials must be submitted to the minister no later than 4 months after the end of the financial year. The minister must then have the annual report, annual statement of accounts, and auditor's report tabled in Parliament. Clause 12, corporate plan, etc. Clause 12 requires NARA to submit a corporate plan, operating plan, and its estimates of revenues and expenditure to the ministry by the 30th of September each year. Clause 13, directions to the authority. Clause 13 empowers the minister to give directions to NARA. Such directions will seek to ensure the effective performance of NARA's function and that approved reconstruction and resilience projects, as well as designated strategic investment projects, are executed in accordance with Cabinet's approval and the public interest. Clause 14, obligation to secrecy. Clause 14 creates an obligation of secrecy and confidentiality for employees of NARA and other persons having an official duty under the Act. Disclosure contrary to this obligation is an offense. However, the obligation is subject to the proviso that it does not apply to any disclosure that is required by the Act or any other law. Clause 15, indemnification of the Chief Executive Officer. Clause 15 allows NARA to indemnify the CEO or any other employee for losses with respect to civil, criminal, or administrative actions or proceedings by virtue of their employment with NARA, provided that said employee acted honestly and in good faith. Clause 16, right to indemnify. Clause 16 further provides that the CEO or other employee are entitled to indemnification by NARA in defending any civil, criminal, or administrative action or proceedings where they were substantially successful on the merits of their defense in the matter. Madam Speaker, Part 3, which deals with reconstruction and resilience projects, programs, and plans. Under Part 3, Clause 17, approved projects. Madam Speaker, Clause 17 provides for one of the central features of the NARA framework, the official Cabinet-approved list of reconstruction and resilience projects and designated strategic investment projects under FAST Jamaica. Clause 17 requires NARA to develop programs and detailed plans to include project scope, delivery arrangements, and timelines for their implementation of approved reconstruction and resilience projects. Implementation is subject to the approval of Cabinet. Clause 18, programs. Clause 18 deals first with reconstruction and resilience programs, which must be developed by NARA in consultation with relevant persons and in accordance with best practice and prescribed requirements. The goods, works, and services to be procured and the relevant persons involved in the program must be stated. The program must be submitted to Cabinet for approval and must be accompanied by the relevant plans for implementation. Clause 19. Clause 19 requires NARA to prepare the plans for implementation of approved reconstruction and resilience projects and monitor their implementation. The plan must be reviewed and periodically updated as necessary. NARA must establish mechanisms for receiving continuous and reliable information regarding the execution of the plans. Programs and plans must prioritize climate and disaster resilience and the need to identify and protect vulnerable areas. They must be informed by historic and current natural and climatic environmental processes and seek to eliminate, mitigate, or minimize adverse impacts. Clause 20, the register. Clause 20 provides that NARA shall cause a register of approved reconstruction and resilience projects to be kept. The register will be updated periodically with the approved projects appearing in the official list issued by Cabinet. The register will be made available electronically for public inspection. Clause 21, expedition of approval processes. Clause 21 provides the mechanism for expediting the approval processes relating to the timely completion of approved reconstruction and resilience projects and designated strategic investment projects. It allows NARA to convene meetings of the various approving entities to establish timelines for inspections, evaluations, and assessments, deadlines for determining applications, and other inputs that inform applications. In many instances, approvals depend on inputs from entities that do not themselves approve the application. Clause 21 contemplates all such matters to be brought within the framework to ensure complete efficiency and coordination of these critical projects. Having convened the approving entities, NARA will be authorized to issue directives regarding the manner in which applications and other inputs are to be handled. Clause 22, directives. Clause 22 requires an approving entity to manage the application review process in accordance with NARA's directives. Such directives must be issued in writing and may require the approving entity to A, process applications concurrently or sequentially, B, coordinate the processing of applications among other approving entities, C, proceed with consideration of an application where an approving entity may otherwise delay or decline to process an application solely because approval or input from another approving entity is pending. D, rely on approvals previously granted. E, determine an application within a specified period. And F, make exceptions to zoning requirements. Clause 23, actions to address non-compliance with directives. Clause 23 provides the mechanism for NARA to address non-compliance with its directives by approving entities. Where there is non-compliance with a directive, NARA may apply to the minister for step-in orders or take other steps necessary to secure compliance with the directive. Before applying to the minister, NARA must first obtain independent expert advice on the matter and must be satisfied that the requirements for approval have been met or exceeded, or that the terms, conditions, or qualifications of the approvals are not necessary. NARA must notify the relevant approving entity in writing that it intends to apply for a step-in order, providing reasons, providing the expert advice obtained, and stating the steps taken to address the concerns of the authority in relation to the application. Clause 24 deals with step-in orders. Clause 24 provides that the minister may issue the step-in order approving the application or modifying the conditions of approval in relation to the matter for which NARA has sought a step-in order. The step-in order, once issued, will have effect as if it were the approval of the approving entity. However, prior to issuing a step-in order, the minister must be satisfied that the approving entity failed to comply with a directive of NARA, was notified of the non-compliance, that the independent expert advice was sought which supports the application for a step-in order, and that it is appropriate in all the circumstances to make the order. The minister must also give the approving entity the opportunity to make representations prior to issuing the step-in order. Madam Speaker, I wish members to pay attention to these clauses because they substantially seek to balance the crux of the matter, which is to expedite approvals, expedite permitting, but at the same time, pay attention to the essence of a process of independent review to allow for appeal and to involve expert advice. And we have tried to capture all of that. So I encourage members to look at clauses 22, 23, 24, and of course 25, which is a designation of strategic investment projects. Clause 25 allows Cabinet to designate a project to be a strategic investment project, which provides similar benefits as approved reconstruction and resilience projects. The privilege of this designation will depend on the Cabinet being satisfied that the proposed investment value or investment threshold is at least $15 million or equivalent. The project can be integrated with the approved reconstruction and resilience projects that are already approved or contributes to the achievement of the purposes of the Act. And the project falls within a list of specified sectors or any other sector that the Cabinet may determine where strategic opportunities arise that serve the reconstruction and economic resilience objective of the Act. The investment threshold may be amended by order subject to affirmative resolution. Clause 26. Clause 26, which deals with regulations, provides the usual power of the minister to make regulations to give effect to the provisions of the Act. This is to be done in consultation with NARA and subject to affirmative resolution. So the House is always involved. Clause 27, amendment of schedules. Clause 27 provides that the minister may amend the schedule. Part 4, dissolution and transitional arrangements. Clause 28 under Part 4 deals with the dissolution of the authority. Madam Speaker, it will be recalled that NARA is intended to be a temporary measure. So within the bill, we have put in a process for its dissolution. To give effect to this, Part 4 of the Act sets out how NARA will ultimately come to an end. As indicated earlier, this Part 4 will come into force on a future date to be appointed by the minister and is therefore worded prospectively. This will allow the affairs of NARA to be properly wound up before its sudden dissolution. Clause 29, savings of agreements, arrangements, etc. Clause 29 provides a transfer of any reference to NARA after its dissolution to be construed as a reference to the government. This encompasses any agreement, arrangement, contract, instrument, or other document. The provision includes the necessary safeguards to preserve the interests of third parties and the public. Clause 30, the transitional arrangements for money. Clause 30 provides that after dissolution, monies held by or become payable to NARA shall be credited or payable to the consolidated fund. Clause 31, devolution of assets and liabilities. Clause 31 provides that assets, rights, and liabilities of NARA shall become vested in the Commission of Lands, Accountant General, or the government as appropriate. Clause 32, transfer of official records. Clause 32 provides that the records of NARA shall be transferred to the responsible ministry. Clause 33, transitional arrangements. Clause 33 provides that the transfer of real property under Clause 32 shall not be treated as a transfer for which transfer tax, property tax, or stamp duty is chargeable. Clause 34, duration of the act. Clause 34 provides that the act shall continue in force until the day after the day of dissolution. The schedule. Office of the Chief Executive Officer of the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority. Paragraph 1, tenure of the CEO. Paragraph 1 provides that the tenure of the CEO shall not exceed 3 years. It also limits eligibility by excluding sitting members of either House of Parliament or local government. Paragraph 2, publication of the name of the CEO. Paragraph 2 provides that the name of the CEO and every change in CEO must be published in the Gazette. Paragraph 3, resignation. Paragraph 3 provides that the CEO may resign at any time and that resignation takes effect as from the date set out in the instrument. Paragraph 4, revocation of appointment of the CEO. Paragraph 4 provides that the Prime Minister may revoke the appointment of the CEO for any of the prescribed reasons, including convictions past or present, inability, very important, inability to perform functions due to mental or physical infirmity, bankruptcy, or failure to act or to carry out the functions under the Act. Paragraph 5, authentication of documents. Paragraph 5 provides for the authentication of documents, and paragraph 6 of records. Paragraph 6 provides the keeping of business records for NARA by the CEO. Paragraph 7, the office of the CEO is not a public office. Paragraph 7 established that the CEO is not a public office for the purpose of Chapter 5 of the Constitution. Madam Speaker, it is important to reassure the public that while we work assiduously to procure the necessary goods, works, and services of for NARA's effectiveness, we will treat with procurement in a manner that is expeditious but ensures transparency, accountability, and fiscal prudence. So in addressing the procurement issue, Madam Speaker, to this end, the NARA will be designated as an exempt body. I said this earlier, under Section 3 of the Public Procurement Act 2015, reflecting the extraordinary nature and urgency of the reconstruction mandate. While exemption from the Act provides NARA with the necessary operational flexibility to undertake procurement at the pace and scale required, the government recognizes that this flexibility must be accompanied by a purpose-built procurement architecture that ensures efficiency, value for money, transparency, and accountability. The procurement system will be designated to operate at speed without diluting governance, internal control, or public trust. The authority will ensure that a comprehensive procurement policy and governance framework is designed establishing principles, objectives, and rules governing all procurement activity, including ethical standards, conflict of interest provisions, oversight, reporting, and accountability. Madam Speaker, I believe I've given a comprehensive overview of the bill itself and the objectives that the government intends to achieve. Madam Speaker, Melissa created a crisis, but every crisis presents an opportunity. It is up to us as the leaders of the nation to recognize the opportunity and to determine in ourselves to seize the opportunity. History and time gives every man, every community, every country, every nation a window of opportunity. Some people look at the window and say, what a beautiful vista, what a beautiful view. Some people actually close the window, and some people wait until the sun sets on the beauty provided by the window. There have been times in our history where we have dithered, we have become trapped in extensive political litigation of the actions required. But there have been times in our history when we have come together in a time of crisis, where we have accepted the challenge, embraced the opportunity, and we have acted as one people. And whenever we have done that, the country has benefited. Madam Speaker, when we acted to treat with political violence and form the Electoral Commission, we acted as one, and we were able to eliminate political violence from our political culture. We can do it. Madam Speaker, when we faced a national debt of 147% of GDP, we were on the brink of collapse financially as a nation. We came together. I was leader of the opposition at that time. No bill that came to Parliament was unnecessarily held up for any political gain. I gave instructions to my members. We must be present. We must help to improve the bills, and we must get them passed. We played our part. The nation benefited. Today, we have cut the debt in half, and we are still, even with a disaster, still on course to keep our target of debt reduction. Country has benefited from EPOC, all the stakeholders coming together to hold government to account for policy. It's the same framework that we intend to mobilize for the reconstruction after Hurricane Melissa. So I urge members to resist the temptation. Yes, criticize constructively, but resist the temptation to stall, to delay, to usurp. I believe if we look at the interests of the nation, we can rebuild Jamaica in the image that we all have in our minds. Jamaica, the prosperous, developing, the place of choice to live, work, raise families, do business, and retire in paradise. God bless Jamaica.
Maybe music play them something. Maybe do. Maybe music play them something.
Leader
Me.
of
Maybe music play them.
Opposition Business, the member from Kingston, Eastern Port Royal.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. As you can appreciate, this matter, and especially the bill being just tabled, and we certainly like to see sight of the Prime Minister's presentation. We will not respond today, but we'll hold until next week, Tuesday.
To say for the record, Madam Speaker, which I didn't say when I opened, it was not the intention of the government to seek to close the bill today. We recognize that the opposition would want to review the various clauses that are new to the bill, and members would want to adequately prepare themselves to participate in this historic and momentous occasion.
If there are no other members who would like to contribute today, House Leader, read the suspension of the debate. Is there anyone who wants to go? House Leader?
Madam Speaker, I move for the suspension of the debate on the NARA bill until next week.
Thank you, House Leader. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
The Speaker is not intending to do any further business today, but just to signal, next week we will start our sectoral presentations. We will be hearing from Dr. Honorable Horace Chang, who will start on the government side, and I know we have scheduled the leader of opposition business, Philip Powell, who will speak, and Member Crawford on the. Oh, okay. But definitely,
Well, I
Member Paul
no
will
matter with the
speak
bill, because guess
next
what, one
week.
bill
So,
get it found
I'm
long, and we
advising
tell
the
one
country
put
that
it
we will get
tell
into
her
our sectoral
was she respond.
presentations starting next week. With that said, I ask that we adjourn for a date to be set.
Yeah.
Members, it is safer. It's safer. Members, the question is that we do now adjourn for a date to be fixed. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. This honorable house now stands adjourned.
So that's it, guys, for the bring the book come right now. So that's it, guys, for yeah. So they're gonna continue this NARA thing next week. So next week we will continue this piece. So guys, it's a 3 live middle today. Because I just want to guys to see what's going on. So thank you guys for joining. God bless you all. God bless you all. Something here. Right there. The mosquito let me in. So I'm going to have a bath now. I don't think I'll be able to do any more live for the day. I did 3 from morning. I did 1 this morning early. What time start? That one start 15 after 9. From 15 after 9 I've been doing live. That one ends. That one took up about, let me see now, about almost 2 hours, and at that finished some. I did another one. They were doing some the next time it was some, oh God, I don't remember me tired. And anyway, I did another one that time. I don't remember what that was about, truly. And then now, as we go finish that now, them say them go have one with this sitting in the House of Parliament. I'm saying, you know what, let me do this one because normally they don't do that very often. So I'm sorry, let me just make use of the time and do that. So I end up doing 3 lives today, tired. But the views were low because my people they come on mostly at nights. So I was just taking a chance doing the lives today. But anyway, I did it. And I'm grateful for all those who come on here. I really need to have a bath. I'm not hungry. Meanwhile this life was going on. Man, this thing is hard, not easy at all. Well, that time, guys, when I was doing the second level or the third level, I rest back, I laid on the couch here and watching the comment section. I know about the comment section to see if anybody asked anything or said anything I could reply. And I was there with the phone, laid down in the couch, looking at the phone. And then you go feel the phone dropping me just like this, bop. Guess what? I fell asleep. From morning, I fell asleep with the phone. Oh boy, no. But life is so funny. Now I'm ready to go. Me have 9 persons on here. And when I do the live, all along up here, look at 3, 5, 3, 5. I know did that done. Why me never have all of you guys on here? See the 10 persons now. Why never have all of you guys in the beginning stage? I know my people them are come on when me want end. No come let me know. It's hard. Hello, Kadar. Oh, you're here, Kadar. Thank you for joining, man. Now it's hard to end the live now with all of you. Where were you guys all along? One beard me hot. The time getting hot. Very, very hot. And I want to cool off myself, drink some water, cool off, and have a nice bath. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Kadar. I think it's Kedar Singh from India. Yes, I remember you. So thank you for joining. What was today, Abby? What was today? You finished marking for them?
No? Right. Me mark 5 multiple choice question and then me put it. Me have to care about your number.
You know, see?
Later me go give back. Oh, you know so.
I'm good. She's just coming from work. She's tired and exhausted. Boy, me never step out of the yard to go work. I hear me there. From morning I write so me sit down. I do them something, and if me tired, so just imagine you. So one time, I watch a comment, and me go feel the phone lick me in my chest, Oh, me think I drop asleep. From morning, so me sit down. Wait, so yesterday we decided. What did we decide yesterday again? Kedar. What did we decide again yesterday? Yesterday I was cooking later than now. How about the timer? Not cooking today. A news day today and a news day today. No, guys, if anybody, let me welcome everybody to the channel today. Thank you very much for joining. Welcome. If you are new here, please subscribe. And thank you all for joining. Welcome to my new viewers and welcome to my regular viewers. Thank you everyone for being here. Oh, Ram. It's a Ram mean again. You're welcome, something like that. I remember that. I never remember that. Ram. It's a greeting, yeah. I'm sorry, I never remember that, man. Oh God, be tired, man. Yeah? May I come there? Let's go. Snacks. Which one you want? You want the? Yeah, one coconut. Me coconut and you have. Oh, chocolate chip. Oh, oh, you guys waited until I come back. Wow. I went to sell something. Ram. You're welcome. No, I don't know what else, I don't know what else to say. I'm out of words. What else people say now? Oh. Right. I was gonna end the live, but we can't anyway. We have 9 somebody on here. And we may do something today. I'll be a 2 and 3 and 5, missy. I know we end up any upon 9. It's hard. Oh my God, it's hard. It is hard. Yeah, be. Not true. We may do never pay 5 and 2 and 3. I know we're any day 9. What? Oh my God. This. What time is it over there now? Kedar. What time in India now? It's supposed to be night. Cause now it's 4:53 p.m. So it's supposed to be about after 9 over there in India now, not you? Supposed to be about after 9 over there in India. Are this party hot or hot? Eh? Mm-hmm. Oh. Uh-oh. Because today hot bad. Right now I burn up. I'm going to drink some water and get a bath. Anyway, I'm going to end this now, yeah. Really can't stay now. Really have to have a bath. So, guys, catch up on you. I don't know. I don't think we can do it tonight. But even if, in case of anything, tomorrow evening, if God spare life. Because I don't think I can do nothing, no more life for the evening. Trust me, I'm tired. So, see you guys tomorrow. God spare life here. Bye-bye. Bye bye. No, bye bye. Bye bye. Bye bye.